What up, Zelda Masters? Webmaster Jason here. Since my last video was so slow and fancy, I'm going to try and do this one as fast as humanly possible. I'm going to answer all of your questions, only 5 minutes flat, go! I don't actually want to have to do that, though. Oh well. On to the mailbag. So before I start answering questions, I just want to get to two things real quick. The first thing I want to do before anything else is just send out a really deep and heartfelt prayer of safety to Japan. Everyone affected by the absolutely horrendous earthquake that happened last Friday. Any viewers, anybody in Japan, we are praying for your safety and that everything is recovered and rebuilt. Please be safe. We hope all your families and friends are all right. Our deepest prayers out to you. Number two is that I want to address something I said in the last mailbag about this guy, codenamed Debbie. Debbie, I said, was the villain in Skyward Sword, or the new villain, but it's come to my attention that he may actually not be the villain. Case in point, shing! These two guys here remind me of each other, Debbie and Waka. Waka from Okami was this kind of ambiguous, morally equivocal character that you actually fight as boss. I think, maybe Debbie may be that kind of character. They really don't say it in the trailer, and it was very wrong of me to outright assume that Debbie's going to be the villain. So I just wanted to clear that up, because Debbie could be this character that actually helps you, or is ambiguous in whether or not he's helping or hurting you until about halfway through the game. Third surprise thing! Steampunk. I love steampunk. Did you know that? I really love steampunk. I like everything with steampunk in it. I like steampunk guns, and steampunk this, and steampunk. Okay, so let's jump into the first question! Majora asks, I was curious what types of realms there will be in Skyward Sword Skyloft and Hyrule. In the trailer, it looks like there's already a desert and a forest realm, but what about stuff in Skyloft? Good question, sir. I will answer it for you. I actually think that dungeons in Skyloft are going to be really, really awesome in a way that you never could have thought. I think that, well, the desert, I think definitely in Hyrule, because it's the desert. I mean, where's there going to be a desert on a floating island? I mean, I guess there could be, but there's probably not. But the forest realm could be in Skyloft. But there could also be other types of realms in Skyloft that you've never thought of. Nintendo has opened the door to do incredibly creative types of dungeons because they've got this entire realm. I mean, if you remember City in the Sky in Twilight Princess, their technology was really advanced and the whole place was, like, pretty much crazy awesome. Skyloft can be that, but even better because it's not deteriorated yet. So there could be types of dungeons or realms that you'd never thought of. Metroid Prime 2 had really unusual types of realms where you went to the Dark Realm. And I mean, I know that kind of parallels Twilight Princess, but it was really strange and interesting and intriguing. Maybe Skyloft has a realm made of marshmallows. I know I kind of joked about this similar question in the last mailbag by saying that there would be a dungeon made of money. But you know what? There very well could be a dungeon made of money that Link has to collect and break down until he gets to the boss. That would actually be pretty cool and creative. I'm hoping that these the most interesting dungeons are in Skyloft, where the technology is probably more advanced, and, they can throw basically any wacky kind of creative dungeon theme or realm theme at it that they want. Minish Cap had a cloud zone. Anything's up for grabs in Skyloft. Anything. That's going to be so cool to see what Nintendo comes up with, because they are the best at being really creative. The second question. Geekiest Guy Around asks, if Ocarina of Time explains the origin of the green tunic by saying that Link was a non-Kokiri, why do you think that Link in Skyward Sword wears the green tunic? That is an incredible question. I have no idea. No, seriously, I have no idea. That was the origin. That was the origin of it. Kokiri thing was supposed to explain where the tunic came from, but before Skyward Sword's before, so the tunic is no longer the Kokiri thing. Yeah! Nintendo's going to have to do some real explaining on this one, because I have no idea what they're doing. Where did the tunic come from? I only bring up this question from Geekiest Guy Around not because I can answer it, but because I am totally baffled by it. That's probably one of the best questions I've gotten, and I have no idea where Link's tunic comes from now. Kudos to you for completely stumping me. If any of you have any kind of idea why this might be, comments please, because I got nothing. Third question, Dawn of the Final Day asks, since apparently Link is a resident of Skyloft in Skyward Sword, does this mean he's not Hyrulean like all the Links before or after him? What races do you expect to see in Skyward Sword, and do you think there are going to be new races? Is he Hyrulean? No, he's not. He's definitely Skyloftian. Could it be that the people in Skyloft are Hyruleans, but the predecessors to them? Yes, it could. The whole thing could come crashing down at the end, which I'll probably talk about in a minute with another question. And then they inhabit Hyrule and become the Hyruleans. I mean, if the Skyward Sword can become the Master Sword, then can't Skyloft people become Hyrule people? As for races, I think they might introduce some new ones, but I think it's mostly going to be explaining the origin of old ones that we know. Like, say, the Gorons. I thought of this when I was watching the trailer and I saw Link in the desert with that electrified spinning-y enemy. Kinda looked like a Goron to me. So let's think about this. Gorons could have been these inhabitants of the original Hyrule that is, tainted with evil, and then Link comes and saves them, and turns them into a normal race. In fact, all of the races of Hyrule could have been originated from Link in Skyward Sword coming down and freeing them from evil. These creatures that Ganon or some other force of evil had created, but were freed from evil by Link and the Skyward Sword. As for new races, if we're going to see a new race, it'll be in Skyloft, for sure. Or we'll learn about the origin of one of the old races having lived in Skyloft previously. Question 4.
I will read this in my fancy voice. The asker of great questions asks, if Skyloft turns out to not be a city in the sky from Twilight Princess, do you think that the reason a place like this is not mentioned in any other Zelda game is probably because, during the course of the new game, maybe near the end, Skyloft is destroyed by evil forces which are supposed to have overrun Hyrule? This, sir, is a great question, which I suppose explains why your name is the asker of great questions.
Back to normal voice now. So Skyloft may not be mentioned in Hyrule because if it comes crashing down at the end, then it becomes a part of Hyrule, like, say, the Kokiri Forest. If the Forested Realm is from Hyrule, then it could crash down and become something like the Kokiri Forest, which becomes other things later. Remnants of Skyloft could actually just be incorporated into what we know as Hyrule. And that would also explain why we've never heard of Skyloft before, enabling Nintendo to retcon in whatever the heck they want. Retconning is fun! Again, all this assumes that Skyloft is not the city in the sky, because it might not be. Because if it is the city in the sky, then we see it in Twilight Princess, and all that is moot because it never comes crashing down or becomes any part of Hyrule. Unfortunately, it is time for the last question. Avert from the Norm asks, do you think they will stick to a starting quest, a catastrophe, and a second quest to deal with said catastrophe, as what they have in all console Zelda games? Or do you think that they'll switch it up from that and maybe go to the 8 Maiden / object collecting stuff, like in the portable games? Or some other unmentioned matter of defeating evil in some other games? Subsequently, how do you feel about this current console flow for games, and would you like to see it done a different way? And if so, what way would you have it done instead if you had any say in the game's development? Whew, that is a doozy of a question. Let's answer it. He's referring to, in a sense, the fact that every Zelda game has the same kind of formula where you go around collecting things, and then you get those things, and then something horrible happens, like in the middle of an episode of House, where everything gets destroyed and is made useless, or the patient crashes, and you have to go collect a whole nother set of objects that are relevant, or you have to go back to the differential room. Link and or House, every 13 Zelda games is doing the exact same thing over and over again. Maybe House is playing Zelda. Do I think they're going to change that for Skyward Sword? No. I know they said that they're going to really try and, refresh Zelda. This is the last Zelda as you know it, is what they said like 3 Zeldas ago. But there's going to be, I really do think there's going to be stuff to collect. From what we've seen, there's not a change in the item system other than its interface. The only change in the dungeon stuff is what I talked about once before, where instead of going from town to field to dungeon, it's going to go town to field and then smoothly transition to a dungeon. As far as I know, those are going to be the only major kind of radical-ish changes to the series. Pretty sure there's still going to be things to collect, because it wouldn't be Zelda if we weren't collecting magically imbued various objects of minimal importance that are made important by their magical imbuedness. Another person asked me if I thought there were going to be sages in this game, and I was going to put this in the mailbag, but I kind of decided not to, because I don't think there are going to be sages because Nintendo's done sages before, but then I remember that they've done sages again and again and again. So it's not inconceivable that they do sages, but at some point they need to kind of get tired of this stuff. But then again, the fact that they've made 13 of these games means that they don't get tired of this very quickly, or ever. But then again, neither do we. Now, about the current flow of console games. I really do like it. I actually enjoyed Twilight Princess when that catastrophe happened in the middle and then you had to go collect the mirror shards because it lengthened the game and I wanted the game to be pretty long. If there's anything that disappointed me the most about the Wind Waker, it's how short it was. Shorter than Twilight Princess, which had a really decent amount of dungeons. Skyward Sword better have the same amount of dungeons or more. And if it doesn't, it better have a darn good reason not to have those things. Regardless, if I could have a say in the Zelda game, it would be all steampunk. Have I mentioned before that I like steampunk? Steampunk. I think that about covers it. Yeah. Now I'm all out of questions, so it's time to end this mailbag. Let's wrap it up right. You guys just keep sending in questions that are better and better and better.
Better and better and better.
It's like I'm doing an Apple keynote. Keep sending those in. These questions are absolutely fantastic. I wish I had time to answer more or all of them. If I couldn't answer them into the video, I may have answered it in the area below with text, which you can read with your eyes. Direct your eyes below, and while you're there, hit up the link in the description to send me questions to answer next week. And I need more questions so that I can make another video, so that you, the humble viewer, can waste another 11 minutes of your life watching me bounce around. I think that about covers everything. I'll catch you next week. Jason out.